Hi everyone and welcome back. So roughly this time last year I bought my first van and we converted it into a small mountain biking van, and the idea was to get 3 bikes and 3 people in there so we could go to trail centres and bike parks. And over the last 12 months it's done just that. It's taken myself, Gaz and Ben to places like 417, Bike Park Wales, Cannock, Llandegla, quite a few places, and it's done a really good job. So I built this, which is a removable plank, and it's got these DIY fork mounts on there, and I made DIY mounts because all the mounts that were available at the time were really expensive. However, I've recently found these on the internet, properly made fork mounts, and the reason I want to use these now, they're changeable. This is currently set up for a boost fork, but you can easily screw the end off, put it back on without an adapter on there, and it will fit a non-boost fork. So I want to make the van more versatile. For instance, my hardtail won't fit in the van on the mount that I made to hold the trek. When I take my brother Mark out in the van, his bike won't fit on the mount that I made because his bike is non-boost. So I'm going to redesign the van, try and make it more versatile so I can fit more bikes in there using these fork mounts. See you in a bit. Okay, so this is the old mounting system that I've got. Now it needs to be removable because I use this van for other things. So I had these swivel blocks which kept it in place. However, there was a bit of flex in the wood and there's a bit of movement. So version 2 is going to be a bit strengthier.
Well, I'm not sure if strengthier is actually a word. Either way, the new version of the van mounts are going to be much stronger and more stable. I'm using a much more substantial piece of wood. I've just got to cut it down and curve the edges so it fits the back of the van.
Okay, this is what we got so far. It's not going to stay at that angle, don't worry. As you can see, we've got the mount there. But again, we've got this problem of angles that I've got to play with. So I've got to find out what I'm going to do about that now. Okay, so I've got the first mount in. This isn't stayed. I've got some rubber spacers on the way to me later on today. But now, before I can test to see if this angle works, I've got to secure this into the van, but in a way that's removable. So let's figure that out.
So at the time, I thought the best way to do this and to make the board removable was using these sliding bolts, but I did actually find a much better, stronger and more elegant solution to this. So keep watching because I'm going to show you that later on in the video, and I'm really pleased with how it turned out.
Okay, so that's the hardtail in. That's the longer of my 2 bikes. Now I just got to hope that those angles work with the full sus. I've run into a problem. The rebound adjuster on the bottom of the Lyric fork on my full sus is a lot bigger than the rebound adjuster on the bottom of the fork that I've got the hardtail. And because I'm mounting these directly to the board, I'm not raising them, and the fork is turned, the rebound adjuster's hitting the wood, stopping the axle going in. But I've got a solution.
I think maybe I should have done this out of the van because it did make a right mess. It took ages to clean up all that sawdust.
Look at that.
Like a glove.
I think we can call that a success. I'm ending for the day now, but next time we're going to look at the mounts for the other bikes. Okay, day 2. I haven't borrowed any bikes yet. I'm still just using my own. This is what I've got so far. So, if I can get my bike in with the bars turned, I want to try and keep the other 2 with the bars straight, just to make it a little bit easier for loading different bikes in and out. However, if I keep the bars straight, it's going to be a bit confusing at the front, so I'm going to try and get it so that this bike is facing the other way. So I need to look now at how I'm going to get that mount mounted and still make the van versatile for other uses.
So to do this and to make this mount removable, I'm using bolts which go down into the floor of the van. They've got a round base, which means I can screw through and secure it, and then I'm using these wing nuts to secure the mount into the floor of the van. If I want to take it out, I just undo the wing nuts and out it comes.
Okay, 2 bikes in, 1 facing forward, 1 facing backward. I'm not going to do the 3rd mount today because I really do need to start borrowing some bikes just to make sure they all fit. But the van Mark II, I'm starting to get really pleased with it.
So I finally got around to going and picking up Ben's bike. Let's go see if we can get it to fit in the van using these new mounts. So Ben's bike is non-boost, and that's the really cool thing about these new mounts. So it comes with these adapters which you can put in, and they are more for a road bike or a gravel bike which uses a through-axle. This is currently set up for a boost fork, but if we just wind this out, I'll speed this up on the video, it comes fitted with this spacer, and we can just wind the spacer off. Again, we'll speed this up, and we can put this back in without the spacer, and we do the same on the other side, and then it's perfectly set up for a non-boost fork. Happy days.
After jostling around with Ben's bike a little bit, it fit really snug in the back of the van. I'm using coach bolts to go through the removable plank, and I'm putting another piece of wood on top to raise the mount for Ben's bike. It means it's going to make it much easier for removing and fitting the axle to secure his fork.
And there we go. I've got Ben's bike in, the door closes okay, got another bike next to it with space for a third bike. However, the mount that I put down there and the way I put the bolts in, it's given me an idea which could be better than using these coach bolts here, or sliding bolts rather. So I'm going to try and do something. So this is what I'm thinking. I used these to put that forward mount in with some small, I used it that way round into the floor of the van with some small wing nuts. But what I'm thinking for the main ones at the back, that main bar that I want to be removable, if I put that under the floor of the van coming through the plywood, and then use these to go through the main plank, and I put 3 or 4 of them across, A, I think it's going to be more secure, and B, I'm not going to be left with those chunks of wood left screwed to the van floor when I'm using it for other stuff like transporting equipment from a band and things like that. Yeah, that's an idea. Let's try this.
So this is a great idea. It just means I've got to take everything out of the van. So the bikes have to come out, the plank has to come out, and I've got to remove the plywood on the base of the van. Not an easy job, but it's definitely going to be worth it in the long run. Now don't worry, I'm not drilling into the floor of the van, I'm just marking on the plywood where I need to put the holes for the bolts.
Okay, so the bolts are in the floor. Here they are, look. 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're not quite flush, they're sticking up just, I don't know if you can see that, they're sticking up just ever so slightly. So, on the plank with the mounts on, I've routed the back out a little bit, just so that sinks into it. Now let's see if this works. Fingers crossed. There we go, that's in. Look, that's done up. And there's those two, and this is now absolutely solid. That is going nowhere. I'm really pleased with that.
So let's test it out. Can I get all 3 bikes in and still have enough room for 3 riders? Remember, I could do this before, but the whole idea of redesigning the van is to make it more versatile so I can take different people and different combinations of bikes.
There we go. 3 bikes in the van again. This time the bars are straight, so I can get different bikes in there. I can get Mark's bike or Sean's bike because the bars aren't turned. It's not adding to that complication. This one's always going to be my bike, and both my bikes fit on there with the bars turned. So happy days, mission accomplished. 3 bikes, 3 seats, and it is definitely more universal than before. If you've liked the video, if you found it helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Click down below to subscribe if you haven't already, and click over there to have a look at some of our other videos. And we'll see you again soon.